Hi, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're okay. I am going to do a video today all about cow's milk protein allergy. So if you're interested in finding out more about it, the symptoms, how we dealt with it, and the chances of outgrowing the allergy, then please keep watching. So first of all, if you don't already know me, my name's Lauren. I am mummy to Freddie, who is 21 months old, and I do lifestyle videos from beauty to fashion to home, all kinds of mummy type videos. I thought it was about time I sat down and done a new video because I'd done one where Freddie was first diagnosed with cow's milk protein allergy at 9 weeks old, and I didn't really know much about it. I just kind of expressed my feelings over the camera and just relayed what the doctors had told me. So today I know a little bit more about it, the symptoms, how to deal with it, and so I just thought I'd sit down, give you the information and tell you our story too. So let's start off with the symptoms. With Freddie, he had a really bad stomach and was in a lot of pain for the first weeks of his life. He had a bad, you could almost feel his pain. He was not just crying like other babies, he was screaming, and he just wouldn't stop. Everyone was saying to me, oh, you've made a rod for your own back and you keep picking him up. I said, well, I literally cannot not pick him up because he will just sit there and cry. I remember thinking, am I doing everything wrong as a first mum? Like, we tried every different formula that was on the shop floor. Like, we started off by trying everything for colic, all the drips, and we then went on to changing the formulas to reflux and I don't know, whatever's out there, we tried it. And it wasn't until we were out one night and I changed Freddie's nappy in a pub that we were in, and it was like poo mixed with blood and then like jelly, like it was horrible. So I went through to Tommy's mum and I was just like, I actually kept the nappy, and I was like, what do you think this is? We said that we'd book a doctor's appointment in the morning to see a doctor. However, the next 2 days there wasn't anything like that jelly stuff that was in his nappy. So we persevered and we just kept a close eye on Freddie to see how he was, and he just carried on as normal. Now, in hindsight, we should have gone to the doctors, but I think sometimes you feel like maybe you're overreacting and you don't want to bother the doctors if it's not too serious. So having said that, after a couple of days the blood reappeared in Freddie's nappies and it just didn't stop. So I then took Freddie to the doctors. Luckily, I think our doctor, his daughter, or someone in his family suffers from cow's milk protein allergy, so he was well aware of the symptoms and what Freddie had, and he straight away said, right, you need to go on Nutramigen, which is a prescribed formula, and that should help. My best friend had a completely different experience and her doctor would not prescribe anything. I think she knew that it was something to do with dairy because she doesn't eat a lot of dairy, but being pregnant, she ate everything that's healthy and she's supposed to, and it was affecting her daughter. So she was pushing for the fact that this was before Freddie was born, but she was pushing for the fact that it was something to do with dairy, and her midwife actually had to contact her doctor for them to prescribe the Nutramigen, or I think the midwife maybe prescribed it and then the doctors had to after that or something. But it was a lot more difficult for her to get the result that we did. But so anyway, that was our experience. So there are several different symptoms such as wind, diarrhea, bloated tummy. Remember Freddie having such a bloated tummy. Pains in your baby's tummy, which you can tell by their screaming and their face expressions and their wind. A rumbly tummy. I remember always thinking, cool, that's a loud rumble from Freddie's tummy. I didn't know whether he was hungry or what was going on. And feeling sick and being quite a sicky baby. I know that always makes you think of reflux, but it doesn't always have to be. And I remember Freddie throwing up a lot if he drank his milk too quick, or he didn't agree with the formula that we was giving him. He was sick a lot, and I remember I've got so many pictures where it's just like covering the bed. But yeah, so they are the symptoms I'm aware of. There could be others, but I think that covers most of them. Obviously you have the blood in the poo, or a rash, which Freddie had also. So what is cow's milk protein allergy? Is such a mouthful. So cow's milk is made up of a lot of different components, such as fat, lactose, protein, and there are different proteins such as like whey and casein, I think that's how you pronounce it, casein protein. I did find that with the whole process there was a lot of confusion between lactose and protein. A lot of people thought that if you were allergic to protein you were allergic to lactose, or the other way around. However, it's not. Lactose is a sugar, protein is a protein, and the fact that the baby's body has a issue with recognizing the protein or the sugar in that milk or whatever. Like I said in my earlier video, it is to do with the shape of the protein, that baby's body can't recognize it, and it isn't until that is broken down, heated, that the shape changes and the body can recognize it. So what we have to do is introduce very, very, very small amounts at a time to build up the body to realising what it is and recognising it. So that is why you are prescribed with formulas which have like the tiniest amount of protein in, so that the baby's body can start to build up a recognition, build up a, you know, like, can tell what it is. And so obviously if it's lactose it has to be a small amount of lactose. I think that can be a bigger amount because there's a smaller amount of protein will affect a baby quicker or more than a bigger amount of lactose, if that makes sense. So the allergic reaction happens when the body sees a component in this milk that sees it as threatening, which then releases chemicals causing the symptoms that we've already discussed. I don't know what that chemical is that is released. I have no idea. I'm sure even if I saw I wouldn't be able to pronounce it. So you can look that up for yourself if you really need to, but I know that it's this that causes the symptoms and the reaction. So how is it diagnosed? As I explained, our diagnostic, our doctor was quite quick to inform us that it was cow's milk protein allergy. However, it sometimes can go underdiagnosed for a little while, like my best friend. From my understanding, there are tests that can be ran for this, but I don't think they tend to do them because it is such a you can either have it or you can't sort of thing, and it is just a case of introducing that to the baby, building up an immune system to it. Turning to the future, they do say that most children will grow out of it by the age of 3. At the age of 1, there is a milk ladder that you may have seen in my previous video if you watched it. There's a milk ladder that the doctors put your child on, so you can slowly introduce more protein in actual foods once your baby is old enough to take that on. So this is things like starting off with a crumb of a milk, malted milk, and then going on to a bigger crumb, and then an even bigger crumb, and then half a biscuit and a full biscuit, and then cream cheese, and I don't know, I can't remember the actual layout of the ladder or what you do first, but I know that it just slowly builds your baby's immune system into recognising what the protein is. As I said earlier, if you bake protein, the shape of the component changes so that the body recognises it. So that's why you start off with things like biscuits and baked cheese and things like that. So it starts off with a shape that it can recognise, and then slowly starts to recognise the shape that it didn't in the beginning. It's hard to explain. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor. But this is just my understanding of the allergy. There are so many different foods out there for kids now that have protein allergy, just like there are for people who are vegan and dairy free and stuff like that. However, I did still find it difficult. The majority of the time it was eating out, or when we were like Freddie was at parties and things, it was other children and other parents. When Freddie was at parties, children would try and feed him cupcakes and quavers, and when we were around people's, it was even the thought of like not putting butter in a sandwich and things like that. So it's not necessarily difficult, it's just having that head on where you like know what they can have and what they can't have, and remembering to look at all the ingredients. I remember looking at a pack of beef hula hoops and being like, nah, there's never going to be any protein in there. Well, let me tell you there is. Beef hula hoops, I mean, I think it's something to do with the whey protein powder or something like that. But yeah, it is surprising. If you even if you don't have a kid to do with this, just check the packets for a couple of things that you're eating, and a lot of it will probably have some sort of milk in it. Obviously there's cheese and all dairy, so that was the hardest thing, I think, is thinking about how we were going to introduce other forms of calcium to Freddie if he got to the age where he hadn't grown out of it by the time he had outgrown a bottle. But they said to introduce milk alternatives like oat milk and almond milk and things like that. I don't really know many because I drink milk, but yeah, they said to introduce them. However, they do say you can start the milk ladder early enough and then introduce cow's milk straight away, rather than introducing oat milk, almond milk, whatever other ones there are. Then that is much more of a better transition, because they're either obviously going from one thing to another and staying like that, rather than going from one to another and then learning to accept another source of milk. So that's what we done. I think Freddie had, I done it quite quickly. If you again watch my video on Freddie's outgrowing cow's milk protein, you will know that I maybe skipped a few stages. I had given Freddie previously a yogurt and not a full yogurt, but a spoonful of yogurt and a biscuit here and there and things like that, as he was a little bit older, and it didn't seem to affect him. So I knew that he wasn't as bad as he was when he was younger and had this blood in his poo. So I just kept an eye out every time I'd give him something little, they didn't get a rash or an allergic reaction of any kind. I do remember when we first started introducing milk to Freddie, he was again very windy and in a little bit of in pain, but it soon passed. The doctors do say that it's best to, so if you've got the ladder, there's obviously the different steps, and if you get to stage 2 and they have a bellyache, then just stay at stage 2, don't drop again and just completely wipe out protein, dairy, stay at stage 2 because they're building an immune system to, or recognising that component, and then as soon as they're back to normal, or after a couple of weeks, you then reach to stage 3 again. But yeah, so as it happens, we just quite quickly moved through the milk ladder, and Freddie was, I think by 16 months, was having full bottles of milk, of cow's milk. With the cow's milk, we did introduce that into his formula. So I done, like, he was having 8 ounces at the time, and I'd give him like 7.5 ounces of formula and then another half of cow's milk, and then slowly increased cow's milk and decreased the formula to the day that he was finally able to drink cow's milk, which was lovely because the Nutramigen does stink, and it is not very convenient when you're out and about, because you obviously have to make the formula up rather than having the little cartons that you can get. Holiday was a bit of a tricky one, but you just work around it. If anyone does have any questions, any food recommendations that they want, yeah, any questions at all, just leave me a comment below and we'll make sure I get back to you. If you enjoyed this video, please do stick around. I'd love to have you over on my channel. If you haven't seen any other videos of mine, please check them out and click that subscribe button. But that is all for now. Until next time, bye!